Welcome to our virtual open house for the Communication Studies MA program at UNCG. I'm Dr. Mary Ann LaGreco. I'm the Graduate Program Director, and we have several current graduate faculty and graduate students with us, as well as some prospective students who are interested in finding more out about our MA program. So I have put together several slides, some program information for you to give you a heads up of what we're going to be talking about this evening. We put together a quick campus tour. I put that in quotes because it's a picture tour. After that, I'm going to run through some MA program requirements so that you get a general sense of what our program is about. We'll get a chance to hear from a few of our faculty and a couple in particular because one of our visiting assistant professors and one of our professional track faculty members is our former MA graduates of our program. Then I will hop back on to talk a little bit more about some of our admission requirements and what we're going to be looking for during the application process. We'll get a chance to meet a few of our graduate students, hear a little bit more about teaching assistantships and tuition support. Our TAs have put together a wonderful tour the TA office video for us, so we will wrap things up with that before we move on to some questions and answers and anything else that we can provide for you during the MA program. So in learning a bit more about our program, this is our most recent faculty picture. Things have changed a little bit since then, but just wanted to introduce you to a few folks who you might see around the program if you get a chance to join us. We do want to share a little bit of information about UNCG generally. So our program is part of the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. And we know that some of you are probably familiar with our campus, but I just put together a few quick pictures to get a sense of what UNCG looks like. Here's our library. Look for the rotunda, but then also look for the giant white stacks behind it. A couple of other aerial views. We've got the Curry building here on campus. This is where a lot of our graduate students, our teaching assistants especially, spend some of their time. We'll take a quick look at our building, which is right next door, the Ferguson building, in just a moment. But several of our students spend quite a chunk of time here at the Curry building. You also start to get a sense of the red brick and white column aesthetic of UNCG, which you'll see in even the new buildings that are getting constructed on campus. We got another lovely aerial view here from College Avenue, so you can start to see some of the newer buildings popping up on campus. You get a shot of, again, the library, our Elliott University Center. Our building is all the way up over here on this corner of campus and easily accessible to many wonderful things, including the Elliott University Center, great classroom buildings. It's a nice spot to be on campus. I frequently like to say that my office has one of the nicest views of the entire campus as a whole. The Minerva statue, for those of you, it's another iconic feature of UNCG's campus. I like to share this one because I love the Minerva story, which is many of our students will leave apples at the base of the Minerva statue, particularly during final exam time, to make sure that they get a little extra support and love and luck as they're going into some of their exams. Here's me. I'm Dr. Mary Ann LaGreco. I'm the Graduate Program Director. In front of the Minerva statue, you can see some of the apples hanging out right there as well. I'm one of your primary points of contact for the graduate program as a whole. I'm the person who kind of shepherds you through the completion of your classes, the planning of what you're going to take each semester, connecting you with faculty members, getting you oriented to the program. Another person we work very closely with is Dr. Jessica McCall. She is the coordinator for our basic course, CST 105, and she also heads up all of the training for our teaching assistants and teaches courses throughout the year where our teaching assistants are able to get together and talk about communication pedagogy, but also what they're experiencing in the classroom, because many of our graduate students do teach as part of our program. And we'll talk a little bit more about that momentarily. But that starts to bring us over to the department itself. We are in the James Ferguson building, and to give you a little bit of what the look of our first floor offices look like, we're going to say hi to Dr. Roy Schwartzman first. And Dr. Roy is our department head. He is our fearless leader. He has been very graciously and wonderfully shepherding us through the pandemic times and has definitely helped make our graduate program as positive and wonderful as it can be, especially as we are taking classes differently and experiencing our program a little bit differently during COVID-19 times. I also wanted to share a quick picture. This is our main office. Right now, our administrative assistant is Sarah Richardson. She's with us temporarily. So you may be interacting with her right now if you have any questions about the program, but we might be having a new person who fills in starting in the spring. But that's generally what our main office looks like. And so if you get a chance to pop in and say hello or send any emails, then you might be interacting with Sarah. I put together a few quick pictures from some of the pictures and materials and things that we have in our hallways, just so you can get a sense of what does our department look like. And if you get a chance to stop in and say hello, you might see signs like this billboard where we have various pictures of faculty and students answering the question, when you say communication, I say, and you'll see close-up answers like community and finding your voice, social media, and networking. Here we've got a picture of Dr. Cerise Glenn talking about engagement. Community engagement is a big part of our department, and you'll probably hear faculty and students talk a little bit about that. We've got some pictures of Dr. Chris Poulos, who's with us on the call today, talking about dialogue. You also see things like connection and understanding. We have other elements and artifacts from some of the work that we have done as communication scholars. This is a project that Dr. Spoma Jovanovic and Dr. David Carlone worked on, where we worked with different students from our communication and community course to ask questions like, how do you define community? And so you'll see remnants and artifacts of this all around our department, because we really like to display the work that we've done and not only feature the work that our faculty does, but also the work that our graduate students and our undergraduate students do as well. We do have our billboard here where we have some recognition for both the awards that we receive as faculty, as well as articles that we've recently published, books that we've had come out through some really great publication presses. And that just gives you a sense of what you might see around our department a little bit. But we do want to share a little bit about what life is kind of like as a graduate student. As much as possible, we really try to build a sense of community for our graduate students. This is some pictures from our 2017, 2018 cohorts, where we were getting together for some regular coffee and croissant meetups. That again was before some pandemic times changed things up, but we've still managed to get together even when we've got to get all masked up. And we've managed to, do some creative activities and engagement opportunities with our graduate students, even though we've had to do it in some slightly creative circumstances. But really that idea of getting our students involved and engaged is really important to our program. I've got a few slides here where you can see our graduate students are working with students from our nanoscience school, and they were working on using improvisational training as a way to help science students learn how to communicate publicly about the work that they do. So as a way to help them become more conversational and think about connecting with audiences. A few other pictures of some students who were working at various different collaborative offices in downtown Greensboro to focus on things like community organizing and food systems. Here was a project where I worked with several graduate students and we mapped out different food resources that were all over Greensboro. Other things that our graduate students do, we have a very extensive teacher training program as part of our MA program as a whole. We do have both teaching assistants, but then we also have opportunities for students who are not teaching assistants to learn more about communication pedagogy as well. And here you'll see a few slides from some of the trainings that we do at the beginning of the year, especially led by Dr. McCall. And as you can see, Dr. McCall is a big fan of pulling out the markers in the butcher paper and really getting students involved and putting their ideas down on paper and creating things that they can share with each other, both visually and through spoken word as well. And so you'll see students who are getting involved collaboratively and really getting ways to express themselves and figure out how to communicate both as teachers, but as students as well. Here's a quick shot from Piney Lake, which is a space that is operated by UNCG and we have access to. And so we'll have several retreats there, sometimes at the beginning of the year during our teaching assistant training, but also other opportunities that we have to gather in that space throughout the year as well. And as you can see, there are kayaks and various other activities that you can do at the Piney Lake area. And so it's a nice space for us to be able to use as UNCG affiliated folks. Students also get involved in a lot of presentations. Here we have a panel of students who are presenting some of their work, other students who are presenting not only on campus, but at conferences as well. And so not only do we get students prepared to talk about communication and communication studies in their classes, we also get them prepared to present at academic conferences as well, if that's something that they're interested in. In a few moments, we will hear from our TAs, and they're going to give you a quick tour around the TA office and let you know a little bit about them and the current crop of folks. But again, we just wanted to reemphasize that we really do try to build that sense of community. Again, we're organizing right now under some unprecedented times, and we're still doing what we can to make sure that folks are still able to stay engaged and still able to communicate with each other and engage in dialogue and have that really engaging opportunities, those engaging opportunities that come along with graduate study at UNCG. So that's a quick tour of our campus and some pictures from our program. I do want to share with you very quickly some of our program requirements and a little bit more about what we do before we take a quick break to hear from some of our faculty members. Our MA program in Communication Studies really focuses on developing your skills as a communication researcher and preparing you to ask and answer questions that involve communication. Now, you might use this to become a teacher at a college or a university. You might use this to go on to become a tenure track faculty member, but you might also use this to engage in communication work and research in a variety of different capacities. So you might end up with a career outside of the university. You might end up applying some of these in public service organizations that you're a part of. So communication research really prepares you to ask and answer questions that involve narrative, human interaction, dialogue, things like that. Our program has 30 hours of coursework, and here's what that means. It ultimately means 10 courses total. You'll have 3 required courses. The first 2 are Engaging Communication Scholarship 1 and 2, and that's where we introduce you to communication theory and research methods at a graduate level. So they're some of the more challenging courses that you take because in some cases, you're learning an entirely new language, and that's the language of research. And so it really does give you a sense of how to ask communication-related questions. And then over those 2 courses, we really do introduce you to different ways that you can ask and answer those sorts of questions. And then finally, in your last semester, you'll take a capstone in communication studies course. And this is designed to help you with what will ultimately become the final project that you complete for your MA program. I'll get back to that in just a minute. In addition to the 3 required courses, we also have 7 elective courses. And 1 course may be taken outside of the CST department, but the rest of your courses need to be taken within the department itself. And we do have these courses across 3 focus areas. The first one is culture and identity. The second is community engagement and public advocacy. And the third is organizational and relational communication. Now, I do want to mention something very quickly about these focus areas. They are general ways that we talk about the kinds of courses that you might take as a master's student in communication studies. It doesn't mean that you are locked into a specific track and that you're only taking courses in culture and identity or only taking courses in community engagement and public advocacy. In fact, several of our courses cut across all 3 of these focus areas. But we do use these as a way to think about the kinds of courses that we offer as a program. And then finally, all of this culminates in a final capstone project, which is very much like an extended research project where you start to ask and answer some of your own communication research questions. We'll pair you up with some faculty members who can serve as mentors along the way. And you can sort of think about these projects kind of like a thesis or a longer academic journal article. So most of them end up being somewhere between about 35 and 50 pages. You might interview people. You might do some field observations. You might look at a set of texts or public speeches. And all along the way, you will start to learn how to analyze those pieces of communication in order to find the conclusions that you think will be most useful for your work. So those are some of the general requirements from our program and what you'd be signing up for if you joined us as part of our MA program. And I really did want to emphasize that culture and identity, community engagement, public advocacy, and organizational and relational communication really do highlight how we emphasize the work that we do. We are pretty committed to these areas in our research as faculty members. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing a screen right now. And we're going to introduce a few of our faculty members. With us, we've got Dr. Gabriel Cruz, Dr. Christopher Poulos, Dr. Roy Schwartzman, Dr. Jessica McCall, Dr. Zatoba Namalo, Dr. Lorraine Olson, and Dr. Jenny Simon. I'm going to let them all say hi very quickly. And then I do want to hear a little bit more from especially Gabriel and Zatoba, because they are also graduates of our MA program, as is Dr. McCall, but we're going to come back to her a little bit later. Gabe, do you want to go ahead and say hi very quickly, and then we'll come back to you?
Sure. My name is Gabriel Cruz. I go by Gabriel, and I'm a lecturer here in the department, and I teach classes on like pop culture and intro to comm and basically whatever else is needed. I guess I'm doing methods this semester, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, that's me.
And Dr. Poulos.
My parents always wanted a mute button for me, but I keep forgetting to take it off. I am Dr. Chris Poulos. I teach courses in relational and family and communication, friendship, and in the grad program also autoethnography, which is a autobiographical genre of academic writing. So that's me.
Thank you. Dr. Schwartzman.
Yeah, this is me with my little Zoom bomber Cher, who I just adopted, was it 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, along with her gigantic brother who exceeds the payload of the chair that I'm in. Anyway, aside from being department head and exhibiting my usual crisis expression that was captured photographically, I teach a good bit in the graduate core courses, the theory and methods courses, and also teach a wide variety of courses, particularly in public advocacy. And my background is rhetorical studies, but I do a whole bunch of other things. Lots of opportunities also, I might add, for research collaborations with faculty. So that's a really exciting part of the program for students who want to pursue that. And in fact, we even have a new graduate fellowship in outreach and public education related to things such as genocide studies. So lots of new opportunities popping up all the time.
Thank you. Dr. McCall.
Hi, Jessica McCall. In the graduate program, I am helping the incoming graduate teaching assistants to train and to become familiar with the responsibilities of the teaching assistant. And so I think we're going to come back to that shortly. But I also teach a course, Communication Pedagogy, which is CST 603, where we focus on both the theoretical and practical elements of communication education and instructional communication. So thinking about how we use communication in educational spaces.
Dr. Olson.
Hi, everyone. This is my parrot, Lucy Lou, who had to come meet Dr. Roy's cat. She's my shoulder buddy through all of this. I teach and do research in relational/family communication, more specifically, the dark side of communication relationships. And I also teach in the core classes with theory and methods. And then I also teach gender communication. So I'm one of those, I think, that sort of crosses over, or many of them. Some of the gender work can also be communication and advocacy. So welcome.
Dr. Simon.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jenny Simon, and you really, at this point in your career, hopefully don't need me. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Studies, but I wanted to be on here in case any of you are in our department, and I see a few of you, and I can always chat with you about this. I can work as sort of when you're in that limbo period between undergrad and graduate to figure out where you're going and how to get yourself ready. And that's whether you come to our department or others. So I definitely wanted to be here. I teach gender, social movement, and political comm, and I've done a lot of, in recent years, stuff with media as well. So that's where my research interest lay. So when it comes to graduate students, while I won't be working with you in classes and stuff like that, if you're ever interested in studying a particular social movement, I'm always happy to chat with you and send you resources if you need them. So welcome and good luck to you all as we finish out this semester.
Thank you. And we're going to go to Dr. Namalo next, and then we're going to go back to Dr. Cruz after that, because Dr. Namalo and Dr. Cruz were both graduates from our MA program. So Ziddy, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself, and then go ahead and go on into maybe talking a little bit about some of your experiences in the program.
Sure. My name is Zitobi Lenumalo, and I go by Ziddy. I'm the visiting assistant professor in the program, so it's really cool because it's been 10 years since I was a student. And so I was sitting here like, oh my goodness, like what can I share? Because there really is quite a lot. I'm an entrepreneur, so before I took on this role in August, I have and had a consulting business, so I do leadership coaching. Of course, over the past couple of years, organizations are now scrambling around all of these diversity, equity, inclusion issues, figuring out how to make adjustments that are relevant to today's times. And so I really want you all to know that I believe with all my heart, communication professionals are essential workers right now. So this is a really, really special time in history for folks like us who maybe in the past our skill set was minimized because people are like, oh, what is a communication professional? But it's very, very real. From the coaching perspective, I've been able to see how the frameworks and theories that I learned in this program help to bring light to what a lot of people are experiencing. So that's a lot of what I took away. I mean, I still make reference to certain principles and ideas that I learned in these very classes that are very, very relevant to a lot of what's happening. And so there's a real practicality around the curriculum. And I feel really great being able to say that 10 years into working this degree. So it will really give you a robust toolkit, for all the different issues that people are facing right now. I'm happy to talk to you further about all of these things. I also have a podcast. That's another really cool way that I've been able to use the knowledge that I've gotten through this program. But yeah, I'd love to talk to any individuals who want to know more or who want support in figuring out how to move forward.
Thank you. And Dr. Cruz, you want to talk a little bit about your experiences? Yeah,
sure. So I also came through the master's program here, and I graduated, I want to say in 2013, if memory serves. And what was great about my time here was that, so I was a TA for one of those 2 years that I was here, and also I took a class on pedagogy. What was interesting about that, though, is that I have come to find out that it's actually pretty common for TAs to not take pedagogy classes in grad school, that it is far more the exception to take those classes than the rule. So I was super fortunate to take pedagogy with Dr. McCall here, which really was instrumental in helping me figure out whether or not I wanted to be an educator and that sort of thing. And so that's, all these years later, I'm still teaching, and in part because I received some excellent guidance in that class. And also as a TA, had some great mentorship, not just from Dr. McCall, but also from from the second year TAs who had been doing it for a little bit longer, that kind of thing. So it was a really good opportunity. If you're thinking about going into education, this is a really good program for that. Because like I said, you get what a lot of other grad programs don't require, certainly. And as far as my function in the department, like I said, I'm a lecturer. So you won't encounter me much, certainly not as a, one of your professors or anything. That being said, I'm always happy to make myself available for, research interests, things like that. I study pop culture, in particular, superhero narratives through the lens of like race, class, and gender. I also study white nationalist discourse and things like that. And if you ever, want to talk about research, that kind of thing, if you're interested in that sort of stuff, I'm always happy to help. Or if it's just to, talk about whatever else is going on, if you need some advice or some perspective on things. And also I am a huge nerd. I do have superheroes up here above me. So if you just want to come by and, talk about pop culture, I'm always here for that too. So yeah.
Great, thank you very much. We're going to hear from a couple of our current graduate students in just a minute, but I did want to talk through very briefly some of our admission requirements. And so I'm going to share a screen here again for you. And these are some of our application requirements for the MA program. The first thing I wanted to mention are the deadlines, because those are always the things that we need to make sure that people hit so that we can fully consider your materials for admission to our program. So our deadline for fall admission is either February 15th or April 1st. For February 15th, if you would like to be fully considered for a teaching assistant position and tuition support, you'll need to have your application to us by February 15th. If you're not looking for a teaching assistant position or tuition support, then we can take your application up through April 1st. So I want to make sure that those deadlines are very clear for folks. If you're looking for spring admission, we can consider your application up through November 15th. In terms of applying to the program, you start the entire process through a program called Grad Apply, and it's an online application. I've included the link here. I'll post it again at the end of the presentation as well. But this is where you start the entire process, and they will take all of your intake information. They will also process any payments and charges for application through that interface. It's where you'll upload all of your supplemental materials. So really everything starts from Grad Apply. In the application package, I do want to talk through what we ask for. So first things first, we're no longer requiring the GRE. Yay! This has been an ongoing conversation at the graduate school level because we really do practice what we call a holistic approach to admissions, which means that we really are looking at the complete package of a student. And so we don't want something like a bad day when you were taking the GRE to totally sink your ability to do well in graduate school. So we are no longer requiring the GRE. If you're applying for admissions in 2022, we will still have to request a waiver, but it's really easy to do. All you have to do is email me and I will forward that information onto the graduate school. If you're applying after 2022, then it will only be a part of the supplemental information and it will no longer require you to submit anything related to the GRE. You are welcome to submit it as a supplemental material, but do realize that it is not something that is required of all students. And so it's something that we will only consider supplementally. In terms of what we require, though, we will look at things very closely like your personal statement. We want to hear why you're interested in studying communication at the master's level and who you might be interested in working with as part of your time at UNCG. So we really encourage folks to take a look at our website, take a look at our graduate faculty, and get a sense of some of the work and the research that they're doing. You might also speak to the 3 focus areas that I mentioned, the culture and identity area, community engagement and public advocacy, and organizational and relational communication. We will also ask you to submit your transcripts. At the application stage, for most of you, you might be submitting unofficial transcripts. If you have already graduated, you might be able to submit your official transcripts. It's okay at this stage in the game if they are unofficial. We will need a final version of a transcript before you enroll in the university if you are admitted into the program. But we will need to take a look at your basic scores and courses, your basic GPA, the kinds of courses that you've taken. We really want to make sure that you're a good match for the types of courses that we offer and the types of research opportunities that we offer. And getting a sense of the courses that you've taken can help us start to get a sense of how prepared you might be to do that kind of work. We do put a lot of weight in letters of recommendation. We want to hear what your former mentors and current undergraduate faculty have to say about your potential as a graduate student. And then we also will take a close look at an academic writing sample. Now, this could be a paper that you wrote for a 300 or a 400 level course. It should really focus on communication as much as possible or a related field. If you don't come to us from communication studies, we just want to get a sense of what is your academic and professional writing like, and what might you need to build up skill-wise in order to up your game when it comes to graduate school. Because there really is a sense of, like I said, upping your game when you move from that undergraduate level of writing to the graduate level of writing. And so if we can start to see what you're capable of as an undergraduate student, we might get a better sense of how well you might succeed in graduate school. And again, all of this is to emphasize that we do take that holistic approach to admission. So we're going to look at each of these pieces and kind of evaluate you as a whole, as all of the pieces put together. And some of that information will come out a little bit further in the final piece of the application requirement, which is our admissions interview. And in our admissions interview, we'll talk through some more details of things that we might have seen, like in your personal statement. We might ask you to talk a little bit more about your interest in communication, your interest in our focus areas, how you see yourself getting involved in our faculty research and our community as a whole. And it's also a chance for us to get to know you. We really, like I said, want to make sure that we are a good match for you and you're a good match for us. Graduate school is not something to take on lightly. It's an investment of time and potentially money. And you want to make sure that you're making the choices that are really best for you in order to take some of your next best steps. So those are the basic application requirements. I will include some links at the end if you have some additional questions, either for myself, or we do have some admission specialists at the graduate school who can help you out as well. But I'm going to go ahead and turn the mic over a little bit to, we have two of our graduate students who were able to join us right now, Erin Cassidy and Nichelle Hunt. So I'm going to give them both an opportunity to introduce themselves and maybe talk a little bit more about some of their experiences. Erin is a second-year student and Nichelle is a first-year student. So Erin, if you would like to go ahead and start off, just go ahead and introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about your time in the program.
Everyone. Like Dr. Lagario said, my name's Erin and I'm a second year in the program. I'm also one of the TAs. I came from out of state. My undergrad degree was at Christopher Newport in Newport News, Virginia. I did study communication studies there, but I also was a double major with political science. So that's part of the reason I was looking forward to coming here, because of the different focus areas. You know, with my communication degree, I was really interested in relational and family and different stuff like that. But then with my political science, I was really interested in community engagement and civic engagement and all that fun stuff. So that's kind of what brought me to Greensboro. And I love it here. I never one day have regretted my decision to come here, which is kind of saying something because I think about things incessantly. It's fine. I have made such great friends through this program that I am so incredibly thankful for. Obviously, I'm the only second year on here this evening, but we are a really tight-knit cohort, and the sense of community that we have been able to create through this program is really kind of astounding. You always have somebody that's got your back in your classes as you're teaching, if you want to go that route. There's always people there to support you and encourage you. And I think that's a really important thing during grad school, is to have those people that were gonna push you to really excel. And I have grown as a person in so many ways through being here. And I don't think I would have done that anywhere else. So that's kind of what I've taken away. You know, classes are great and I've learned a lot in those as well, but as a person, I've grown a lot. And I think that's really essential.
Thank you. That was really great, Erin. All right, Nichelle, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm Nichelle. I came from Utah State University, so across the country. And one of the things that drew me to this program is that it had, I did my undergrad in both communication studies as well as Spanish. And so I was looking for some kind of program that both had the relational aspect as well as the cultural aspect, which this university does. And I was also looking for somewhere that would give me a new perspective, coming from a university that was more quantitative research and qualitative research in order to get a bit of more diversity in my background to apply for a PhD. I wanted somewhere that was totally different from my undergrad, which I loved my undergrad. And then also I was looking for a place that I could teach while I did my my master's, and being a university that, or the program that only has a master's, we have that opportunity as a master's student to have that teaching opportunity, which has been one of my favorite aspects of this program. And so it met my requirements, and it was very supportive of out-of-state students and being able to have the help for financial and tuition wise that I needed. And so that was a huge pull for this program as well. And so far I've loved it. I'm about to finish my first semester, and I'm excited for the next 3 as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Nichelle. You've heard both Aaron and Nichelle talk a little bit about some of their experiences when it comes to teaching, and Gabe mentioned this as well. One of the, I think, hallmarks of our graduate program is really our teaching assistantship program. And I do want to talk through just a little bit of information about that assistantship program, as well as some other assistantships and tuition support that are available around the program. So in terms of our teaching assistantship, what's great about it is that we really work from day one to get you up and teaching in the classroom as soon as possible. And that really is something that is truly unique about our program. There are only a handful of other programs in communication studies that are committed to getting to students and getting them teaching right away. You will spend time in those first maybe few classes and semesters, providing just some support to Dr. McCall or another instructor of record. But in many cases, you are leading classes from week 1. And so the teaching assistantship is really a 20-hour-a-week assistantship that covers 2 sections of CST 105. And CST 105 is our basic introduction to communication studies. It covers things such as group communication, relational communication, but a lot of public speaking as well. And so one of the primary things that you will be helping students learn as part of the assistantship are basics of public speaking, audience analysis, engagement, writing a speech, outlining a speech, performing, all of those elements in terms of how do we communicate publicly. Most of our teaching assistantships involve 2 years of funding pending a positive annual review. Again, we want to make sure that this is the best match for you. And we want to make sure that the assistantship is helping you through the project, or helping you through the program. It's not keeping you from completing the program. And so we want to offer as many supports as we can along the way. And so we will oftentimes check in with students and make sure they're doing all right. And if things are going well, then we usually do our best to try to make sure that you are funded for a second year. It is a 9-month stipend. So it runs from August through May. And it does include access to health insurance that you can purchase on the Affordable Care Act exchange. So we are able to get access to a very specific kind of low-cost healthcare and health insurance for graduate students. And that is part of the assistantship stipend. In terms of having health insurance fully covered, that is not necessarily guaranteed. And so I wanted to be clear about that, as clear as I can about that up front. There are some ways that we're able to find additional funding to cover some of those things. But basically it is access to a pretty good and affordable healthcare plan for you. You will work with Dr. McCall as part of that teaching assistantship. She is considered to be one of your primary points of contact and kind of your direct supervisor when it comes to your assistantship. And I'm going to hand things over to her in just a moment to talk about some of that. But I do want to mention a little bit about some of the other assistantships and tuition support that we have. So on some occasions, we are able to secure some research assistantships. A lot of that depends on funding that faculty members receive. And so one of the ways that we are able to do that, you heard Dr. Schwartzman mention that he has a graduate fellowship that he is able to provide some funding for in the coming year. He is also kind of the overseer of the Schwartzman Fund, which was established to help with graduate student research, particularly graduate student research that works alongside of a faculty member. And so sometimes we will see this sort of assistantship manifest over the summer. And so we will use some of that funding from the Schwartzman Fund, from some of the other research assistantships to help fund graduate students over the summer. It's not always guaranteed. It doesn't happen every year, but it is another way that you might be able to seek out some financial support to help you get through graduate school. There are also assistantships in other departments and offices. We've been pretty lucky lately. For example, one of our graduate students currently works in the social media office with the graduate school. And so she is working very closely with their director to post information on social media sites, update websites. So she's doing a lot of very practical and professional related communication as part of her assistantship in another department. And so those are other opportunities that might be available as well. We have a limited number of teaching assistantships in our department, but we've done a pretty good job with helping other students find assistantships in other departments as well. And so if this is something that you are also interested in, you can contact me and I can start getting you in touch with some of those offices that might provide some funding as well. Then beyond the assistantships, we do also have a limited number of tuition awards, and they're generally reserved for those students who are also funding as a graduate assistant. And so usually it's seen kind of as a package where you get both a stipend for a teaching assistantship and some tuition support to help get you through graduate school. It's not always a lot of money. In fact, we do what we can to try to get you as much as possible. But we want you to be aware that the stipends for the teaching assistantships usually run about $11,000 to $12,000, and the tuition support varies. Sometimes it might be something as little as $500. Sometimes it might be complete coverage for both in-state and out-of-state tuition, depending on the case. And so, again, make sure you hit that February 15th deadline if this is something that you are interested in, because they are competitively awarded. And so we need to make sure that we've got enough time to evaluate all of the students. There are also some competitive fellowships. They're nominated by the graduate program director during the admissions process, and those are awarded through the graduate school. And so during the application and admissions process, we identify both first year and second year students who we might nominate for some fellowships. And those can range anywhere, again, from $500 to there's an inclusivity one where I think sometimes it's like $6,000 to $9,000 that sometimes students are able to receive in terms of tuition support and other fellowship support. Again, we don't have any control over the awarding of those. All we can do is nominate you and hope for the best. And so, and then finally, we do also have a departmental scholarship. It's usually awarded to a second year student, and or a rising second year student. You apply for it when you're a first year, but you receive it when you're a second year. And so that is something else to keep an eye out for in terms of funding opportunities. You're also encouraged to fill out FAFSAs and to apply for financial aid. You might need to get some loans and things like that. But again, those are all decisions that you'll need to really work through, because it's making sure that you are making the right kind of investment in the next steps that you want to take. And so we'll do our best to cover as much of it as we can, realizing that we still have limited awards and limited tuition support and assistantships to offer. So, but that's the basics of it. So we do have some support that we can offer. And like I said, the big piece of it really does come through our teaching assistant program. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to Dr. McCall to talk a little bit more about that program.
Sure. Well, thank you, Marianne. I feel like between Dr. Cruz and you, Marianne, and the two teaching assistants, we've got a pretty good feel for what some of our GTAs are doing. So I'll just mention a few points. Just to reiterate, you would be actually most of our students, our teaching assistants are actually teaching CST 105, which is our basic course. And that is a course that is open to all students and actually is incorporated into our general education program at UNCG. So you are working with students from all over the university, very diverse in terms of interests and backgrounds, ages, etc. So that's kind of exciting, as obviously you have diverse voices in this space, and you're really pulling those into the conversation. So we do often recognize that it's a pretty steep learning curve that first semester that you're here. Most of our incoming graduate teaching assistants have very little or no teaching experience, and that's completely understandable. But yet we have, I think we work to build a good support system. So it's not just about me telling people what to do. It is very much a community. And so I think Dr. Cruz mentioned that, and Erin mentioned that as well, where we're always working to support one another. And so obviously there's a common calendar, a common syllabus that we're using, and yet you do have some autonomy in the space to create your lesson plans and incorporate different activities that you might want to use. So we really try to work to build an ongoing community where you are supported. And we like to say, keeping your head above water that first semester. And then after that, it gets easier and easier. And many people realize after the first or second semester that this is something they really like. Or they recognize that maybe this is not what they want to do long term, but they really are benefiting from the experience in the moment, and they can take these skills forward. So I think that's kind of the basic ideas of the program, and I'm happy to answer any more questions. We do provide ongoing training, not just in the 603 communication pedagogy course, which is required for all graduate teaching assistants, but then there's training prior to the fall semester, a week-long training session, and then we're providing ongoing training throughout the semesters. So did I miss anything?
I think you got it all. And I think it's time to debut our Tour the TA office video. So I really want to thank Erin and some of our other teaching assistants for putting together this quick video, because we wanted to share with you just what does the space of the teaching assistants look like. A lot of our graduate students spend a significant chunk of their time there, primarily the teaching assistants, but I feel like even some of our non-teaching assistants will happen there on occasion and do some work with y'all. So without further ado, let's take a tour of the TA office.
Hi, I'm Erin. I'm one of the CST TAs. Let's take a tour of the office. Hi, Alex. Welcome to our office. This is our space to hang out between our grad classes and our classes we teach. It's our space to do work. It's our space to hang out and be a community. You can see there's a ton of desks in here. Everyone gets their own space within this nice communal space. And in that space, we each get to decorate it. Mine has a lot of Grey's Anatomy in the castle. That way we get to show our own identities in the midst of the community. Okay. Hey, Michelle, what are you working on?
Hey, Erin, I'm just uploading videos for student presentations.
Awesome. What's your favorite part of the office?
Well, I love that we have a printer right here for anything you want.
Yeah, the printer is great. It's for us to use for our grad classes, but also for when we teach. Let's go talk to Dan. Dan, what are you doing?
I'm checking my email for students' presentation aids for their final speech.
Oh yeah, it is that time of year. What's your favorite part of the office?
Well, my favorite part of the office is a place to get away from all the hubbub of campus, work on your lesson plan to get ready for your next class that you're instructing.
It is great. That way we can get work done, and we get to help each other out when we're all in here together. Look, there's Alex. Let's talk to Alex. What are you doing?
Just doing some end of the semester grading, trying to get caught up on everything.
Yes, that big last push. What's your favorite part of the office?
My most favorite part of the office is the wonderful candy bowl that we have here.
Let's check out our closet. In this closet, we have everything you could possibly need to instruct a course. We have all of our records here. We've got a ton of office supplies here. We've got decorations for the rest of the office. And we even have some kitchen stuff. We got plates, bowls, cups. Down here, we even have what fridges. That way we can store all of our food. We've got a microwave, coffee machine, and even a kettle so you can make tea. We've got a ton of different books to help you with grad research. And we've even got a communal shelf where we share different foods, coffee, teas, and supplies with each other. So that's our tour. Thanks for joining me. I hope you can join us soon.
All right, so that's a little bit about our graduate student space in the TA office. Thank you, Erin, that was great. I just wanted to share as we wrap up a few more important links as reminders. If you have additional questions or you want to look into our program a little bit more, there is a link to our MA program homepage. You can find it through our cst.uncg.edu General Communication Studies homepage. Just look for the graduate buttons and you will eventually find your way there. Again, if you want to do the online application, you will start that through Grad Apply, and it's at gradapply.uncg.edu/apply. If you need admissions help that is beyond my skill set, we will begin looking to our recruitment and admissions office and our admissions specialist, Jay Chastain. They are great, and we can find their information at grs.uncg.edu/about/meet our team. And then if you have any additional questions for me, my email address is melegrec@uncg.edu. And again, I'm Dr. Mary Ann LaGreco. It has been really wonderful to have you as a part of our open house. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up and say that we hope to hear from you before February so that we could perhaps consider you as a part of our program.